Well, I see that there's a lot of focus on the operations of the police, and then you talk about welfare, the funding part of it. But some of the issues you mentioned earlier about the tenure of the IGP, I mean, what happens if the person who was appointed as IGP has got 2 years to retirement? That wouldn't be an issue, would it?
Yeah, I don't know, because the civil service, the police force is being guided by the civil service rule. So I think maybe in the case of this 4 years, they will have to shop for an officer who have 40 years, 4 years remaining in the service or more to fill or to occupy the office of the IGP. I think that will solve the problem.
Because that could be a challenge. If he's the next qualified person to become the IGP and he's got 2 years to retirement and the law says the tenure is 4 years, wouldn't they feel hard done by if you meet that person and get the next person? That would breed some bad blood, don't you think?
Yeah, if you remember, during the appointment of the IGP, Ibrahim Idris from Niger State, about 27 AIGs and DIGs were retired. This is not new in the system. That's how it has been operating. So I think this will not be different.
Yeah, but I thought that these are part of the injustices, quote unquote, or anomalies that needed to be corrected, making some of these laws so that people don't think that they get to a certain position, they can't give their best anymore, and then they're eased out of the system.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, because I think there are some executive powers attached to that, which maybe the president may decide. I'm not a lawyer, so let me not delve into something that I have no idea. But I believe the president may have the power, because it's a paramilitary setting, so to maybe extend or decide how it goes.
There are some other issues that will...
Maybe through the...
Go ahead, complete your thoughts, please.
Excuse me? Maybe but in conjunction, in collaboration with the Attorney General of the Federation, who will interpret the Civil Service Act or the law.
Let's turn to Mr. Chukwuma, Innocent Chukwuma, because, they were part of the people who brought in the one for 2004, and we built on it moving forward. He joins us via Zoom. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, having gotten to this stage, and, from what you've heard senators speak about some of the provisions that eventually scaled through. Are you satisfied that this act will address some of the fundamental issues that the country had raised about policing?
Let me begin by saying that it is a welcome development, and one does not expect one particular amendment to address anomalies that have been in existence for the past 77 years that we've been using the 1943 Police Act. There are certain sections in it that are welcome and would aid improvement in performance of the police. There were some sections that were rejected from the bill, which we hope in other amendments that will come in the future will be addressed. But I also have to place my comment with a caveat that I have not actually seen the signed copy from the president. And in the light of the controversies around the Company and Allied Matters Act, that should be underlined. So for me, when we started this process in November 2004 about amending the then 1943 Police Act, we had 5 areas of challenge with that act. One is that it has what we describe as insufficient articulation of the mission of the police in a democratic setting. So if you look at the then Section 4, it talks about what the police are employed to do to prevent and detect crime, and was very silent on fundamental rights. And we thought that in a democracy, there is need for a delicate balance between public security and individual liberties. Now, in the new act, it was addressed because right after the whole role of preventing and detecting crime is the need to protect and respect fundamental freedom. There's also the issue of scattered provision in different acts. If you look at in the UK, where they have the Police and Criminal Evidence Act, you have in one body of law a comprehensive provision about the powers and what the police are supposed to do. In our own situation, that was not the case. So in this new act, there was an attempt to link it with the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015 and make the two laws as a continuum and reinforces one another. There was also the issue that much is left to discretion in policing. If you look at the former Police Act, a lot of powers of arrest, search and detention were left loose. But in this particular act, there have been attempts to ensure what the limits of those powers are. Some of these include that police shall not arrest somebody on the basis of civil wrong or breach of contract. A suspect or defendant may not be handcuffed, bound, or subjected. There's reasonable suspicion. You have all along provisions that we thought, if adequately enforced, will help in addressing issues around fundamental rights. But as we were saying earlier, the whole issue around appointment of the IG, they addressed the one of security of tenure, and I welcome the provision that once appointed, an IG stays in office for 4 years, which is a reasonable period of time for the person to develop his or her agenda and try to implement it. But the appointment process is still left to the president. The president begins and completes it without reference to the National Assembly or even some kind of public hearing, so that members of the public who have interacted with the particular persons will come and testify as to their integrity. There was also the provision that the person should hold a minimum of first degree. This was rejected in the new act. So you can
just one moment. You said something about the appointment before you move off of it. Senator Jika said the other time that the appointment of the IGP is not something he does solo, that he has to do it in consonance with the police council.
Yes, it's an advisory role. So this is actually not a new provision. In the former Police Act, the police council is there for the president to consult and be advised by them. But the practice is that IGs are appointed and removed without recourse to the police council. And even if you have police council in section, what role they have is advisory, which the president can accept or reject. So that is still does not meet the requirement of having the public play a role in the appointment of an important position such as the chief of police, which should be differentiated from the military service chiefs. This is a civilian organization. The police is a public police. It is not in the category of military services. So whoever comes or gets appointed, members of the public should have a framework of making inputs and testifying as to the integrity of the person before the person is confirmed.
Well, let's get back to Senator. How much involvement did the police have while this went on before it was signed in?
Yeah, as I told you, through our legislative intervention, when the bill came to the National Assembly, we invited all critical stakeholders, that includes the Nigerian police, for their input. And then the public also and other private individuals and sectors to come and have their input, because, as I said earlier, we want to have a well-refined and a well-behaved Nigerian police that is society-friendly. So that has been captured adequately. And the police were fully involved in the whole process from start to finish.
Well, it means that there's going to be a lot of training, because if it's the same police personnel who are not going to be sacked, but will have to bank on huge training for that to happen. But, you know, yes, the part of community policing, Now, we saw when the government signed off and then released some funds, or approved some funds for community policing, you saw the reaction of the country. Many still kept on saying, it's not really about some of those issues. It's about the structure of the police, how the people want to own the police. Now, in consideration of some of these views that people had, do you think this Police Act actually addresses those concerns that Nigerians have about, I mean, they talk about state police, for instance?
Yes. As I said earlier, this act captured the issue of community policing adequately. The whole concept of the community policing came up when the police feel the need to involve, that is the citizen, in policing. So when you go through the act, you will see that the police commissioner of a state is the chairman of that board, and in collaboration with the local communities there, be it a district head, a village head, a chief, or any critical stakeholder there in the state, and it goes down to the local government and to the ward level, and it has adequately captured. It has been adequately captured in this act.
Right. Because there's still a lot of questions as to this special constabulary. Yes, this act has given it a green light. Well, eventually when we see, we'll confirm if that is indeed the case. But you know that there are arrangements across states right now as it stands. And one wonders, where does that leave that arrangement that states have made? Does this act factor that in? Does it talk about collaboration? Because they say they want to collaborate with the police. But does this act speak about that?
Yes, it does, because as I said, we even go to the extent of looking at the provision and now insert a clause that would provide an allowance from them for them from the Federation account, so which is going to be shouldered by the Nigerian police. So that means the police will be fully responsible for that special constabularies, and they will be supervising whatever they do, and because they will be getting source of information from the grassroots, and then to the police authority for necessary action.
So just to be clear, for example, Amotekun, you're saying that this new act factors in Amotekun and says, well, there will be a collaboration with Amotekun. Is that what you're implying?
Yes, Amotekun is another form of community policing. There's nothing wrong with that. So they're all going to be captured, like what we have in the north here, the Hisba in Kano, and other local vigilante groups. They are all other forms of community policing. You may recall in the 8th Assembly, I also sponsored a bill for the establishment of the Vigilante Group of Nigeria, VGN, which will be supervised by the police for 5 years, after which they will be on their own. But unfortunately, the bill was not assented to. So it's the same people or the same organizations that will now be injected into the community policing system in Nigeria.
Is this recommendation, what you're saying now about this community policing, is this in tandem with the new insertion in Section 12, where you said that the Police Service Commission shall appoint such other persons to offices in the police force as are required for the effective and efficient performance of the functions of the police? Is that what this section is about?
I don't think so. I don't have the copy of the bill with me here, but as I told you, there are about 27 or 28 clauses that differ, the House and the Senate, which we were able to resolve through conference. So I'm yet to see the clean and the final bill from the clerk of the National Assembly. But all those things, all those areas have been adequately addressed in the bill.
All right, Mr. Chukuma, could you go ahead and speak to us? Because, I mean, we've seen the reaction that Nigerians had about community policing.